Let's be honest, no one likes to go to the dentist, but it's something we all need to do. Keeping your teeth and gums healthy is as important as monitoring your blood pressure and cholesterol. What happens in your mouth can affect the rest of your body, so it's important to find a great dentist to manage your oral health. I'm Herb Weisbaum, the Consumer Man, a contributing editor at Checkbook.org.
Welcome to Consumerpedia at Checkbook.org. We're the nonprofit that helps consumers select services, avoid trouble, and save money. Because we don't accept any advertising or take money from any business we recommend, you can rely on Checkbook.org to be completely independent and objective. Now, here's the host of Consumerpedia, America's consumer expert, the Consumer Man, Herb Weisbaum.
In this episode, how to find a dentist that's right for you, and how to manage the cost of good dental care. Plus, how often should you get your teeth cleaned? What about x-rays? When should you see a specialist? And is dental insurance worth buying? Here to talk about all of that is Checkbook's executive editor, Kevin Brasler. Now, Kevin's not a dentist, but he's interviewed dozens of them. And he recently had some serious dental surgery, so he has some first-hand experience to share with us. Hey there, Kevin.
Hey, Herb.
No, normally it's like pulling teeth to get you to do one of these things, but you couldn't wait to talk about dentists.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this show. I'm about as excited as everyone else out there is about the prospect of going to the dentist. It's one of those, it's an important thing. It's really important that you choose your dentist carefully. It's really important that you make sure you're not getting overtreated. Unfortunately, a lot of dentists do that these days. We'll talk about that. But mostly, it's really important to actually go to the dentist and go regularly. And we'll talk about that too, why that's important.
Yeah, because most people think of dental care sort of as like different from your overall health, but it's more than just keeping things looking good. There's much, much more to it.
Yeah, so our knowledge about the importance of good dental hygiene and getting good dental care, it continues to evolve. Over the last 5 to 10 years, researchers more and more are saying that having poor oral health, it's linked to some very serious health conditions like heart disease and pneumonia and stroke. There's emerging research that connects poor dental health to you're going to have a greater chance of having some types of dementia. So some of these links, researchers aren't sure why they exist. Like, so does poor oral health contribute to dementia because people with missing teeth or, a bad smile or whatever, that they tend to not go out in public as much and have social relationships? That could be, but we're really not sure about some of these connections, like dementia, for example. But there are, links. They're just not sure about the causality there. But doctors do know that your mouth, it's like a window into your whole body, that bacteria that cause gum disease and cavities and things like that, it doesn't just stay there. It can enter your bloodstream and cause inflammation elsewhere. So overall, your dental health, it really, really matters.
True story. When I was a kid, our cleaning woman died. She passed away from bad teeth. She got infected teeth, got into her system because of the blood supply, and she died. So this is really serious stuff. It's more than just looking pretty and having a great smile.
It still happens today. And my wife probably won't want me to share this, but she had an abscess. She had a problem in her teeth, and it became a serious problem. Our dentist was very worried about her, and that she got this raging infection that, it can cause sepsis, it can cause other things. But even if you don't have this like critical, awful event, some terrible infection, just having poor dental health in general can affect other things. It's pretty clear now that it does affect incidents of heart disease, strokes, things like that. Part of the reason is again, that if you're not controlling the harmful bacteria in your mouth, it can enter your bloodstream and affect you in other ways that you may not even be aware of.
And a final point on this before we move along is that it's like with a car, pay me now or pay me later. If you find a problem when it's small and deal with it, you won't have a big problem that may result in an extraction or a root canal or something like that.
The best way to prevent big problems with your teeth and mouth down the road is good preventive care, doing what you're supposed to do, brushing regularly, flossing regularly, and also going to the dentist. Doing stuff at home will definitely help you maintain your oral health, but you still need to go to the dentist and have a professional remove that tartar, that buildup that brushing alone will not get rid of it.
For lack of knowledge or other reasons, a lot of people skip dental visits that they'd never skip a physical. And the key, of course, here is that you have to go. You just have to do it.
Yeah, and I think part of it is anxiety, right? And we were just talking to Tracy, who's the audio editor for this show before this, and he's just talking. We're all just kind of talking about how everyone hates going to the dentist, and part of that is you might have had a bad experience. Part of it is it's just something you don't want to do. It's like doing your taxes. Who wants to do that, right? But I think a lot of people have had bad experiences. They've had pain or discomfort or dealt with a dentist who just wasn't very good or personable. But a big reason people avoid the dentist, probably more common, is that it's expensive. It's just costs. I mean, it's a huge problem, especially in the US, where that a lot of people don't have dental insurance. I had to have oral surgery last fall, and it just kind of came up out of the blue. I was going to the dentist and doing a good job of doing that, being a good adult, going to the dentist every 6 months. They took some x-rays, and the dentist was like, well, that's not good. So, next thing I know, I had to have this major oral surgery to remove a cyst that otherwise would have gone undetected and become a really big problem for me down the road in terms of it invading my sinuses and having teeth loss and terrible stuff. Again, going to the dentist regularly, it can help head off some serious problems down the road, more expensive problems down the road. But a lot of people avoid the dentist because, in general, it's expensive. And most people in this country don't really have dental insurance, and a lot of people don't have it at all.
I just checked, and just a routine cleaning is going to set you back between $100 and $200 or more, depending on where you live. That's a lot of money for some folks.
That's the cheap one, right? I mean, like most dentists are charging even more than that. And then you're paying for x-rays periodically because you do need to get regular x-rays. So the cleaning is the starting point. That's what I think a lot of people also worry about. That oral surgery I had, the price tag was thousands and thousands of dollars. And I end up having to pay out of pocket a good chunk of that, even though I have dental insurance. A big problem is a lot of people don't go to the dentist because then they can't afford it. I mean, it costs $300 or $400 just to fill a simple cavity these days. As with any medical care, costs for dental care continue to go up and go up far faster than inflation, unfortunately. And a lot of people just can't afford professional dental care. It's a real shame.
So someone listening needs a new dentist. Where do they start?
Well, I think patient reviews is a good place to start, but you have to use them, intelligently. At checkbook.org, we have ratings of general dentists. We also have ratings of specialists. The good news is that, like 2/3 to 3/4 of the dentists that we do evaluate, they get really high scores. If you need a specialist and you already have a general dentist, I think it's wise to ask that dentist for a referral. Who should I go to? That's what I did for my surgery. But also ask, why are you referring me to that specialist? What about that specialist makes them the best option for your condition? For my condition, the reason is that, a lot of the oral surgeons out there, they're just kind of like wisdom teeth extractors and implant factories. They do those two things. I needed somebody who had more specialization, more experience with soft tissue stuff, and that's why I got referred where I did. But it was important to me that I asked that question, why am I being sent there? A lot of dentists, they just send you to someone who they have a relationship with and may not be that, thinking critically so much about your condition and which specialist is best for you.
So speaking of specialists, when do we actually need one versus just sticking with our regular dentist?
Well, I think for a lot of things, I mean, a big problem these days is that general dentists are now doing other work. So in terms of who does what, your general dentist handles most of what you need: cleanings, fillings, routine restorations. But if you need things like gum surgery or dental implants, or if you need a root canal, if you need to move multiple teeth, you should be looking to use a specialist. The tricky part is a lot of general dentists, they may be able to do some of these procedures. Some general dentists are now doing braces and orthodontics. Some are branching out and doing root canals and things like that. And the reason is there's a lot of financial incentive for those dentists to keep as much work as possible in-house. Big problem is that a lot of these general dentists, they've begun doing this specialty stuff because they want to get that money. A weird trend in the world of dentistry, especially in the U.S., patients have gotten a lot better about hygiene. And also dentists themselves are practicing for longer. So there's more dentists out there than ever, but less work for them in terms of filling cavities. And so that means there's kind of a shortage for them in some regions. And so they're looking to add revenue by doing specialty work. But I think you're way better off using a specialist. The old adage, practice makes perfect. That's especially true when it comes to medical care. If you need a root canal, go somewhere where the person's doing root canals all day long.
So what about the credentials and memberships that dentists list on their websites or we see plastered on the wall? Should I be impressed by those?
I think for general dentists, maybe not. Licensure is required in every state. Most of these professional society memberships that these dentists advertise, they just mean that the dentist paid dues. And then also, that they agreed to a code of ethics or something like that, which is difficult to enforce. The big problem with dentistry is there's very little peer review. And that's true of some surgeons too, right? Medical surgeons. I mean, nobody's regularly checking whether a licensed dentist is actually doing good work over time, just as no one's sitting there following up necessarily with each knee surgeon in terms of looking at complication rates and things like that.
So for the general dentist, one might say the plaque on the wall doesn't tell you about the plaque in your mouth.
Exactly right. I do think with specialists, though, there's board certification. So just like medical doctors, if you're going to get knee surgery, you want to make sure that the doctor is board certified in orthopedic surgery. And if you need eye surgery, that they're certified in that. Dental specialists also have board certification. It actually means that, they did what other doctors do, where they've gone through special training and they had to pass a difficult test. Problem is that most medical and dental specialists, they get board certified. So in the case of medical doctors, it's like 93% or something like that of specialists gets board certification. With dentists, it's lower than that, but it's not something that's going to distinguish one specialist from another because you're probably picking from among two specialists who are board certified.
So what should you expect when you go to the dentist? Who does most of the work, and how often do you really need those x-rays? We'll tackle those questions next. I'm Herb Weisbaum, the Consumer Man, and you're listening to Consumerpedia, powered by Checkbook.org.
Looking for a good dentist? Checkbook has ratings for hundreds of them, including pediatric dentists and dental specialists in and around these 7 cities: Boston, Chicago, Philadelphia, Seattle, San Francisco, Minneapolis, St. Paul, and Washington, D.C. If you live in or around one of these 7 cities and haven't joined Checkbook yet, check us out. Get a free 30-day subscription to all our ratings by going to checkbook.org/Consumerpedia.
All right, back to general dentists. Kevin, before we start, I got to tell you a funny story. I had the same dentist for about 30 or so years, recently retired a couple of years ago, went to a new dentist, and was surprised to find out they don't have spittoons there anymore, whatever you call them. Sit up and rinse. They now irrigate your mouth and stick a suction thing in there and suck it all out. I couldn't believe it. It was so weird.
Mine, fortunately, still has both. So I still get the spittoon. A lot of dentists, when they're doing cleaning these days, and it's usually not the dentist doing the cleaning, usually it's done by a dental hygienist these days, they're using these ultrasonic devices to blast the tartar off your teeth. And when they're using that, they're spraying water in your mouth at the same time. So yeah, as they're working, they're rinsing using the little suction thingy, the Mr. Thirsty thing, as they're going along. And so there's less need, I guess, for spittoons, but mine still has them, thankfully.
If we were taking a vote, I like that. I like to sit up, take a second, and just do it. So
right.
Please be noted.
Me too.
So they're going to do more than just clean your teeth, which is probably going to be done by hygienists and not the dentist, by the way.
Yeah, right. And, but the dentist should still come in and do a thorough exam, either before the cleaning or after. I think if you're a new patient, it's helpful for them to come in before and after. But the dentist is looking for, screening for signs of oral cancer. I mean, that matters a lot. They should also check your teeth for cavities and examine your bite and jaw joints, and probe your gums. And if you've had x-rays taken, they need to carefully review your x-rays. They should also ask about symptoms and, really importantly, listen to your answers. I mean, like any medical care, communication is vital to getting good care. Is the dentist listening to you? Are they asking you lots of questions? And then are they actually bothering to listen to your answers? It's also important that they or the hygienist reviews your brushing and flossing techniques and recommend ways to improve what you're doing at home. All dentists these days should be urging their patients to invest in electric toothbrushes. Those devices have gotten really inexpensive. And as mine has explained to me repeatedly, like your teeth are doing a lot better now that I've switched to this electric toothbrush.
Mine too. I don't get yelled at as much as I used to, or critiqued as much as I used to. So
I actually had a dentist email me one day, and he wanted to talk about this, and so I called him, and he says, I'm kind of the outlier. I don't even bother telling my patients to floss anymore because they won't do it. And he says, but if I tell them to get an electric toothbrush and I tell them which model to buy, and it's like $100, that they'll actually do that. And then the next time I see them, their teeth are in much better shape than if they just did their regular brushing and didn't floss. And none of them are flossing like I tell them to. So it's just really kind of an interesting conversation. I mean, he's still saying people should floss, but he's like, half my patients will not floss. It doesn't matter what I say to them, but they will get the electric toothbrush.
By the way, here's something you don't know, but I did the first national story on Sonicare because it was developed here in Seattle by the dentist at the University of Washington. And I switched to that. And as I said, my checkups now are so much easier. I don't get bad grades because it does most of the work for me.
Yeah, it makes a big difference. You still need to make sure you're using them correctly. So, like as my dentist notes, you're not using brushing motions anymore. You're just kind of holding it in place lightly and then moving to the next tooth.
Yep.
because you can overbrush. And that's
Yep.
actually a problem I've had before where they had to do some veneer work, some filling work because I was brushing too much.
And you tip the brush toward the gum and it takes care of itself. One problem we've reported about over the last 10 years or so is that dentists might be recommending unnecessary care. You go to a new dentist and suddenly you need way more work than your previous dentist ever said you needed. Maybe a bunch of new crowns, fillings, whatever. What's happening there?
So this is one of the most common complaints we hear is that people try a new dentist and, all of a sudden we need to replace all your fillings, or, we need to do all this restorative work that no one's ever told them about, or we need to remove your wisdom teeth, even though your old dentist said, no, they're fine. You'll be able to take care of them, right? I had that happen to me.
Mm-hmm.
So in fairness, a new dentist, they might catch something that genuinely was missed before. But it's just a big red flag that especially if you go to a new dentist and they're suddenly recommending really expensive work, I'd get a second opinion before agreeing to anything. Before you get the second opinion, have the new dentist forward any x-rays or an exam results to the second opinion dentist for a review. Any reputable dentist will cooperate with that request. But, a lot of what's going on here, I think, is that some dentists, as I mentioned before, there's fewer patients, fewer cavities to fill. They're trying to fill that void. And some dentists, unfortunately, are being dishonest about the work that their patients need, and they're just over-treating them.
So how often do we really need x-rays? They ask that all the time. We'll take some x-rays and you'll be on your way.
Yeah, it just depends on the patient. If you've had a lot going on, then you're going to need x-rays more often. In my case, I'm going to need a lot of x-rays to make sure that cyst doesn't come back and that I don't have, problems up there that are just not being detected otherwise. But if you're doing well, you haven't had a lot of cavities, your teeth are healthy, you should get a full set about every 5 years, but you should get a more limited set of bite wings more frequently, every 18 to 24 months, somewhere in there. If you're going to a dentist and they're ordering full mouth x-rays every time you go or even every year, I think that's worth questioning why they're doing that much.
And cleanings, I know this for a fact, that it's not always just twice a year.
It's not. And, for some people, it's they should go every 3 or 4 months. And for others, they can go once a year. The standard is every 6 months. I think it's okay to question that, especially if you're paying, 100% out of pocket. Do I really need to be coming here every 6 months or every 4 months or whatever the interval is? If you haven't had a lot of problems, if the dentist says, hey, you're doing a great job, brushing and flossing at home, you may not need to go until, every year or so. But at some point you do need to go because you do need all that tartar built up removed by a professional. You're not going to be able to get it all at home.
So my wife has some gum problems, so she has to go every 3 months to have it cleaned. And I have super teeth and could go 8 months, he said, but I try to go every 6-ish just because they do all the other things and look for cancer and disease and little problems that could become big problems. But it's not a hard fixed rule, is what you're saying, that you do it every 6 months.
Yeah, it's not. And as you said, Deb needs to go more often than the rest of us. But she's been given a good reason for that. It's not just, hey, go every 6 months, some blanket answer.
So let's talk about money, because that's where dental care can really bite you. So what does pricing actually look like across the different practices you might experience?
There's stunning variation in prices from practice to practice for the exact same work. Our undercover shoppers, they found that, for example, a routine exam and cleaning can run anywhere from around $180 to more than $350 in a given metro area. And that doing work like installing a porcelain crown for an adult molar, we see ranges of about $1,600 to more than $2,500. Price differences of $1,000 to do the exact same work on a crown. So the same procedure, same tooth, wildly different prices. And this is the critical finding. You'd say, well, I don't want to go to like the cut rate dentist that's going to do lousy work. You don't have to worry about that. We find that higher prices, they don't mean you're going to get better work. The best dentists are just as likely to charge low prices as high prices. It's chaotic. So it's really important, especially if cost is a big consideration for you, that you make sure you're not essentially going to an expensive dentist. One thing I think people should do is if you need a lot of care, if a dentist says, hey, you need all this restorative work, or if you need oral surgery, get a written treatment plan with prices. They will do that if you ask. And that way you can compare costs at other practices. And it also gives you a better way to get second opinions, which I said before, they can be really important. I got one for my surgery. I ended up going with the second opinion dentist for various reasons I won't go into here. But one of the reasons I went with the second dentist is it was going to save me more than $1,000.
And if the two opinions differ significantly, you'll probably have to go to a third, right?
I think so. I mean, it's just like, I think it's the most underutilized tool in medical care in general is that people should get second opinions, maybe even third opinions. And that goes for dentistry too. You're going to get a variety of looks at this. In my case, I was more comfortable with the second dentist because of the way he described he would do the procedure. He had a different approach than the first surgeon. There were savings to be had. And also, I was just a little more comfortable with the second dentist because I asked, well, how often do you do the surgery? It's pretty rare, right? And he was like, I've done hundreds, maybe 1,000. He has more experience doing the type of surgery I needed as opposed to, as I mentioned before, a lot of these surgeons just they're just wisdom teeth removal factories.
And something I think people need to realize is that if you go in for the first time and you're not comfortable there, and you're going to be spending a lot of time with a hygienist, maybe you don't like how the hygienist is doing your mouth or whatever, there's nothing wrong with finding another dentist the next time. And you're not stuck with this person for the rest of your life.
Yeah, there's really no reason to be married to one dentist because, again, the second dentist, if you've had x-rays, they should be transferred over to the new dentist. All your records should too. I think another thing to think about is, in my dentist, there are lots of hygienists. I think there are, 7 or 8 in the practice. And, there's been times where I've had a hygienist work on my cleaning and I wasn't as comfortable with the person as others. They weren't as gentle. And so I've just kind of, delicately asked at checkout, hey, the next time I come, can I not have that hygienist? These offices, they're used to these requests. They get them all the time. Speak up for yourself.
Good point. And then, of course, there's dental insurance. Is it worth the price? We're going to talk to Kevin about that straight ahead. I'm Herb Weisbaum, and you're listening to Consumerpedia, powered by Checkbook.org.
Consumerpedia Fast Facts. People have been using toothpaste for thousands of years. According to Healthline Media, the ancient Greeks used a mixture of iron rust and coral powder to clean their teeth. Toothbrushes were bunches of tree wigs that people would chew on. About a third of each tooth is underneath your gums. This is why keeping your gums healthy is so important. The outer layer of your teeth, the enamel, is the hardest part of your body. Its primary purpose is to protect the rest of the tooth. And I bet you didn't know this. Your body produces about a quart of saliva every day. That's about 10,000 gallons during a lifetime. Saliva plays an important role in oral health. It contains calcium and phosphate, which can neutralize acids and plaque that cause damage and decay.
All right, Kevin, the big question for a lot of people is dental insurance or not.
I think it really depends on how you're getting the dental coverage. If your employer or your spouse's employer, if they're paying a significant share of the premiums, if you get that employer-sponsored dental care, then yeah, it's worth getting because your premiums are going to be really low. You're not being paying full freight for the coverage. And if you're going to the dentist like you should, twice a year or so, yeah, you're going to come out ahead financially.
But what if you're shopping for it on your own?
Yeah, if you're the one paying for all the premiums, then you need to think a little more carefully about it. Unlike health insurance, where you're protecting against, financially catastrophic risks, unpredictable costs, like you're going to have cancer or need emergency surgery, things like that. For the most part, dental expenses are foreseeable. They weren't in my case with my oral surgery, right? But for most of us, we kind of know from year to year what kind of care we're going to need. One thing you need to know about is like the standalone dental plans that you, a consumer, can buy, not necessarily those your employer can buy. Those standalone plans like Delta Dental and others, they're really like prepaid discount plans. So you pay them a bunch of money, usually on a monthly basis. Mm-hmm. And then when you need care, you get a discount because you're part of that plan. The plan picks up part of the costs. And there's all these in-network dentists versus out-of-network. If you're in-network, you're going to get a bigger discount than if you're out-of-network. In general, you're probably going to break even with these plans because they're set up to make money for themselves. You don't have this subsidized premiums that you do with employer-sponsored coverage. And so I just think it really depends on you, the consumer, whether you want to buy into these or not. It's like any other insurance. If you're paying full freight, you're going to end up coming out financially worse than you started because that's how they're designed. They're designed to make money.
So before you do anything, you got to find out if your current dentist participates in that program. What if they don't?
If you subscribe to one of these prepaid dental insurance plans, then you're going to be far better off using an in-network provider than an out-of-network provider. If you use a provider that's out-of-network, the savings from using these plans, they largely disappear. So selection of dentists is really important. If you're thinking about buying one of these plans, see, okay, who in your plan is in network. If they're in network, then you might actually save a lot by using one of these plans because those in-network dentists have essentially agreed to keep their fees way down to make it more affordable for the insurance company.
And one other thing to watch out for, and this is critically important, what is the waiting period before that coverage kicks in?
Yeah, that's a big problem. So you cannot approach this and say, well, I'm going to wait until I need a bunch of work done and then I'm going to buy a dental insurance. Because essentially a lot of these places say, no, we're going to have a look back window, right? You're going to have to wait a couple months. And in some cases, it's 6 months or longer before coverage kicks in. You got to be a member for a certain amount of time before we'll pay for anything other than cleanings. So it's another thing to consider. I do think the quality of the dentists in these networks, it's really important to look at. Unfortunately, less than 10% of dentists are usually members of these plans. A lot of the dentists that participate in these plans, they're new dental school graduates, or they're new to the area. You may find a great dentist through one of these plans, but unfortunately, like really well-established dental practices often don't participate with these plans because the payouts are so low.
And a tip for our more mature listeners like me who are on Medicare, if you have a Medicare Advantage plan, that plan may include some dental coverage, either reimbursement or a certain amount of money you can spend every year. So be sure to check if you have a Medicare Advantage plan.
Yeah, make sure you also check to see what coverage you already get, either through my employer or elsewhere. One important thing to know is that one feature of the Affordable Care Act, what people call Obamacare, is that kids have to be covered under health insurance plans for certain dental care. So, for example, basically you have to be covered for regular checkups and cleanings and x-rays and sealants, things like that. Your health insurance plan has to cover kids under certain conditions. If it's one of those exchange plans, they have to do it. In Washington State, for example, all health insurance plans have to have some coverage for kids for dentistry.
Well, we covered a lot in this episode, but you will find more information on checkbook.org, including articles Kevin wrote about teeth whitening options and how to brush and floss properly. Kevin, important information on the way out, just to pick up your little goodie bag of a little toothpaste, toothbrush, and some floss, and thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you, Herb.
Before we go, a few other health-related episodes you might want to check out. Number 70, How to Save Money on Prescription Drugs. Number 67, Buying Eyewear. Number 66, Cutting Through the Nutritional Supplements Hype. And number 22, How to Find a Top Doc. And with that, we're out of time. I hope you'll rate this episode. It's really helpful. And follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Remember, we release new episodes every other Thursday. Another way you can support this show is to follow us at Consumerpedia on Facebook and Instagram, at consumerpedia.org on Blue Sky, and at My Consumerpedia on X. You can find me at consumerman.com. I'm Herb Weisbaum, always looking out for you. Until next time, be smart and shop wisely.
Consumerpedia is a public service of Checkbook.org. We're a unique nonprofit that helps you save money and make smarter choices. You can count on Checkbook to help you find the best services and avoid the worst, with local ratings that are accurate and unbiased. If you live in or around these 7 cities and haven't joined Checkbook yet, check us out. Boston, Chicago, Philadelphia, Minneapolis-St. Paul, Seattle, San Francisco, and Washington, D.C. To get your free 30-day subscription, go to checkbook.org/Consumerpedia. Consumerpedia, empowering consumers to save money and make smarter choices.